Hello, hello, and welcome once again. J76NY here, and after a bit of a break, we are back with President Anton Rayne in Sordland. Last couple episodes, we've had some highs, we've had some lows. My wife, Monica, gave a pretty stirring speech that was interrupted by some chauvinist, and I stood up for her, although admittedly probably not as strongly as I should have. We've made a little bit of progress on our constitutional reforms. Our hardline members of our party, the old guard, are not happy with the reforms and pretty staunch in their opposition to it. But we are gaining the support of the reformist. Something I've been thinking about doing with President Rayne, if the game allows it, is to kind of move him away from the old guard and into the reformist category. The party needs to progress past its comfort zone and into the future. That's where we're trying to take Sordland in this playthrough. This is the For the People playthrough. Trying to do things that would benefit both Sordland and the population of Sordland and its citizens. Sometimes it's a kind of a balancing act, but I think we've done pretty good so far. Unfortunately, our economy is still in the tank, and we still are running with a budget deficit. So that makes this meeting here, the budget allocations of the Sordish armed forces, kind of important. Now, the way the game works is you're offered a series of choices, and each choice affects the direction of the story, kind of like a choose-your-own-adventure type of thing. It's pretty fun to play. It's mostly reading. It's text-based, so if you want to consider this me reading a story to you, the story of President Rayne and how he is trying to improve Sordland, that would be the good way to go. It's a text-based political simulation role-playing game, and I'm enjoying playing it, so hopefully you're enjoying watching it. Like I said, this is the For the People playthrough. I have plans on doing a more totalitarian playthrough called For the State, and then kind of a just for fun playthrough where I pick the douchiest option available whenever possible and see how the story plays out like that when President Rayne is a complete asshole. So let's get into the story for today. To determine the current situation of the military and its spending policies, we held a meeting in the White Room. Peter Vulcan and Joseph were seated. Peter, Vulcan, and Joseph, all three of them. Peter's my vice president. He's a bit of a alcoholic playboy, but he is my best friend. And at the beginning of the series, I said I'm going to stay loyal to my family and friends. Nothing has changed about that, despite Peter's flaws. General Vulcan, Mr. Lancia, let's get started with the briefing. Very well, Mr. Vice President. We've prepared a briefing to convey further details about the current situation of our military, and no, I am not doing separate voices for all these people. First of all, I don't think I could remember which voice went with which person, so you'll have to deal with my monotone dribble. First off, we have received an update communication from the Arcasian Military Command. Their planes are being moved into Erloy Air Base as we speak. Now, we did sign basing rights with the Arcasian Air Force. That's the only reason why our budget isn't still at a -3. Under our supervision, of course. Now, these are where you are offered the choices. Do your best to make them feel at home. Good. Make sure you keep an eye on them. Ensure they do not forget which country's soil they are on. So, he wasn't too happy about this, so we're going to go just do your best and make sure they don't forget that this is our country. Of course, Mr. President. Now let's move on to our military. Which branch would you like to know about? What's the situation of our army? According to the latest reports from Camp Strongarm, currently we field 6 armies totaling up to approximately 400,000 active troops, which is a good amount. The real issue we are having is the quality, not the quantity. current equipment status, what exactly is our army, or where is our army deployed, and how do we compare to other armies? I'd like to know where they are. The first army is stationed at the Lesbia and Wehland borders to protect the way into central regions of Sordland. The second army, our strongest force, has been situated by the Rumburg border. Rumburg is the country to our north. They are a thorn in the side to the entire region. I'm assuming that they are based on the old Soviet Union. From what I've read, Sordland itself is based on roughly 1950s Turkey, so early Cold War. The second army has a large mountain commando force, and it is best equipped army because they are facing Rumburg. The third army is near the Agnolian border, and the coastal area is facing Vogsland. Due to our bitter past, we generally keep a coastal defense force, although many years ago the decimation of our fleet still has not forgotten. Okay. What's the current equipment status? How do we compare to other armies? Rumburg fields about 6 armies amounting to 1 million soldiers, so we are way outnumbered if we ever got into a scuffle with them. Lesbia fields 5 armies, which amount to 800,000 soldiers. Vogsland fields 1 army of about 140,000. Wehland fields an army amounting to 100,000, and Agnolia fields 2 armies with a total of 200,000 soldiers. The sheer size of Rumburg's army is because of their forced conscription laws. Due to their massive gold reserves, they are able to afford it. On the other hand, the Lesbian army is the most advanced, followed by the Vogslandian army. Both of these countries put lots of money into modernizing their military. What's our equipment status? Might as well go through them all. Our army is quite outdated by today's military standards. Most of our equipment is 2 decades old. To make up for our lack of modern military equipment, we resort to a large number of soldiers, which is not really a long-term solution. I've been trying hard to reduce the negative effects of this problem. We don't need a modernization program. A standardization purchase of lacking equipment would do. We need more funding towards expanding the military size. That's not what you just said. Our army is quite outdated. Let's see, to make up for lack. Okay. Otherwise, our army will be seen as weak. Curious about the other branch. Let's talk about our Navy. Our Navy currently constitutes 59 ships with a total of 60,000 sailors and support staff. As you know, these ships are commanded from our main naval base in Conriat, where our flagship, SN Rayne, is docked. How are our capabilities in power projection? The truth is we are limited to our near region due to the size and technological levels of our naval ships. If we had modern support vessels, we could participate in international operations. That's right, we still hold some power, though. If needed be, we could block the trade at the Marquian Sea. To make up for our weakness, allying ourselves to a naval power could also help protect our seas. And how does our Navy prepare to the others in our region? Our Navy is dwarfed by the size of the Vogslandian Navy, which has 194 ships, and the Agnolian Navy, which has 81 ships. We only surpass Lesbia in terms of our Navy, as they have less than 30 ships. As you see, the situation is dire, but the solution is not just more ships. To make a truly better Navy, we need to equip with our ships with modern radar and sonar systems. More outdated ships wouldn't mean much. Where do we currently patrol? We are patrolling the Marquian Sea, the Grey Strait, and the Antician Sea. Our Navy protects all our coastal regions, however. To make sure we are not thinning out our defense, we prioritize certain regions over other, like Greater Holsword. We often patrol the routes that are close to the shipping lanes, especially Marquian Sea and Grey Strait. The amount of cargo that goes through this area is eye-opening. And it's my opinion that cargo is worth protecting because international commerce can be a very powerful thing, especially if we have the ability to choke it off, if need be. Another thing to note is, after the takeover of Helgeland, where our Navy has led incursion operations to protect Agnolia, we also take part in some joint Navy drills as well. Let's hear about the other branches. Which ones? Apparently we only have an Army and a Navy. And an Air Force, I guess. Can you provide the details of our Air Force? Our Air Force currently has 410 planes in the inventory, out of which 140 are jet planes that are not in great condition. 30,000 pilots and support staff work in the Air Force, and they are commanded from the Mark Air Force Base in Erloy. What are our operational capabilities? Our planes can bomb targets within 400-kilometer radius of their airfield. They have medium range and semi-effective nighttime bombing capabilities. At any time, we can field 7 air wings composed of about 130 aircraft that can operate in combat duty. This is enough to subdue most targets. In terms of our bombing capabilities, we have an average of 100 meters of precision. This is not great, but is still within the effective radius of the bombs. How does our Air Force work together with our other military branches? The Air Force is trained as an independent tactical support branch, which means it assists other branches but doesn't collaborate. This does cause some issue like friendly fire and miss close air support opportunities. There are ways to improve collaboration with joint operation rooms. Something to think about, surely. How much experience do our pilots have? Our pilots have average experience. They have a total of 450 hours flight time with their craft before they are qualified. This gives them more than enough time to get used to it. This is low compared to the 1,000 to 1,500 hours in other countries like Arcasia, United Cantana, Lesbia, and even Volksland. Normally the hours per pilot should be higher, but due to lack of funding, we can't increase the training times. Fuel costs are rather high. I'd like to know about the other branches. Any specific one, considering that's all 3 of them. Let's move on. And the Ministry of Defense is content with the additional funds. Hopefully the allocated money helps our defense needs. The increase of the military budget is for national security, which is threatened by Rumberg and other nations. The military is a top priority for our administration and the Sordish people who hold it in high esteem. It is a pleasure to work with you, Joseph and Vulcan. You are true sons of Sordland who have served and continue to serve well. The important thing is we put these funds to good use, as the people will need proof of our success in the military. Let's go with number 2. The Sordish Armed Forces is a symbol of unity and strength. It means a lot that the administration sees eye to eye with it. The President has always been supportive of our agenda because he has a strategic mind. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. Should we move on to the spending choices? I want to hear the suggestions. The increase of the military budget leaves us with big questions about how to utilize it. There was a lot of debate at the ministry, which resulted in 2 factions of thought. The first faction is in favor of enlarging the armed forces by enlisting more men, while the second faction is in favor of purchasing better military equipment instead. What's the argument for increasing the size? I'm kind of leaning towards the equipment option, but let's hear them out. Some of our neighbors have larger populations and thus a larger armed forces. Using funds to boost our size would minimize their advantage. Theoretically, numbers alone don't determine the strength balance. Enlisting more soldiers to the armed forces could also minimize the unemployment issue, which is a good point. Do I get a option to hear the argument for the other one? What other reasons are there? Reports show that we lack equipment, not men for military efficiency. We cannot beat an overwhelmingly large army like Rumburg without numbers. What's the argument for purchasing better equipment? The armed forces are behind in terms of military equipment in comparison to our neighbors. We need a fundamental modernization program. No matter how many advanced weapons and systems we buy, our enemies can overcome them. Vulcan had a serious tone. That sounds bleak. Quality over quantity always. I don't think investing in better equipment is the way. But I kinda do. Quality over quantity. A smaller, well-equipped force can destroy a much larger one. Sir, I will be frank. Rumburg fields 3 times our force. A modernization program won't mitigate our difference. The era of large assaults and human wave tactics are over. We are heading into an era of modern combat which requires modern tools to adapt. We can modernize and then go for numbers after that. I've settled on a decision. Everyone stared at me. Purchase better equipment and begin a modernization program is the way I am going to go. Like I said, we can improve the quality of our equipment and then go for numbers if we get to that point. As you wish, but the decision will be negative for our old doctrine. Glad we made the right choice on this. I'll make the necessary arrangements. My general is on my side, so that says a lot. Yeah, this will be it for today. Good work, everyone. I'd like to extend my thanks for your attendance. The meeting concluded as the sun set over the concrete jungle that was Holsword. Alright. Let's read the news. Holsword Post. Major military overhaul. The Ministry of Defense has announced a new ambitious military modernization plan in order to solve the outdated equipment issue and other shortage in the armed forces. Defense Minister Joseph Lancia praised the administration for its resolve to form a force that can adapt to the challenges of a new age in warfare. Our nearby enemies won't dare face the reformed military might of Sordland in the future. That might be kind of pushing it. To meet the equipment and structural demands, the military-industrial complex and international arms contractors have been contacted. General Staff made no comment regarding the changes. Second Kantanen satellite in space. So the Kantanens are launching satellites. And we are getting radar and sonar. So we're a little behind. Alright, let's see what we have to do. We've got a few items here and there. Ooh, what do we have here? Trade talks with the Prime Minister of Agnolia. Oh boy. That's going to be a big one. The Agnolians were not exactly fans of our immigration policy, and now we've got trade talks with them and the Wehlands. Let's go through this stuff first. Young Sword militants arrested. The Anrican police force has organized a raid today after reports from Sordish Intelligence Directorate about suspected Young Sword's activity in Anrica. The police were ambushed during their raid of the suspected building. In the firefight that broke out, 4 militants were killed and 10 more have been arrested in the aftermath. Unfortunately, an officer was also killed during the fighting, which is too bad. Report. Ooh. We get to read the report from our highway project. The H3 highway running from Lockhaven to Arvory is mostly complete, with final preparation being made for the opening. Underhaul construction guarantees a timely delivery of all contractual obligations. With Arvoy about to be connected to the country's biggest port in Lockhaven via a large modern highway, people in the region are expected to have better access to jobs, welfare, and other services. The H3 will also improve trade links with Agnolia. Oh, here we go, over here in Holsword. The Ministry of Education is reporting that the massive overhaul to the education system is progressing very well. All schools in Sordland will collaborate in the reduction of hours taught in citizenship, soulism, and nationalism subjects. Significant efforts are being made to lessen the political indoctrination in education. So our education reforms are going pretty good. The highway project is going pretty good as well. We have trade talks to deal with here. Let's take a look at Wehland first. If I can find it. History, locations, countries. Wehland. Wehland, officially the Republic of Wehland, is a presidential republic situated in eastern Maricopa. So they are socialist. We are trying to go with a more free market approach to this playthrough. So, Republic of Agnolia, parliamentary republic situated in eastern Maricopa, Nurse Democratic Union, led by a prime minister. So we are about to improve our trade options with Agnolia. We'll see what they have to say first. Trade talks with the Prime Minister of Agnolia. Sordland 1's flight from Holsword to Stallport took 3 hours but went very smoothly. We were about to touch down. David left his seat and came over while Simon was enjoying his newspaper. Looks like we are about to land, Mr. President. I looked outside. I could see Helgeland, the island between Vogsland and Agnolia. So many conflicts over a small piece of land. The island can barely sustain itself without outside help. I know, I was just thinking the same thing. If I was in the shoes of the Agnolian Prime Minister, I would do anything to protect the motherland. I don't blame them, it's a very strategic position. Certainly, if you have Helgeland, that means you're in control of the whole Vosges channel. I suspect it will be one of the topics that Mr. Van Horten will bring up as a bargaining chip. We must be careful. Helgeland might be under the control of Agnolia, but the international community has yet to recognize it. For a good reason, too. Nobody wants to make an enemy of Vogsland, especially because of the support of United Cantana and CSP. I don't care who we are against, we will cross that bridge when we come to it, me included. I wouldn't want to do anything to injure our relationship with Vogsland. Vogsland is the Democratic Republic of Vogsland. Is a socialist republic. Whoops. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We should try to look at the bigger picture. Simon folded his newspaper, got up from his seat, and sat right next to us. Aside from the point of Helgeland, we need to be careful with the additional request. According to the deal that was negotiated so far, they want to sell us their steel for a higher price, and they are requesting easier access to our agricultural markets. In return, they are promising cash flow and investments, especially in the Agland region. It's not hard to guess why. Agnolian immigrants in our Agland region make up a good chunk of the region's economy now. During the initial negotiations, they have brought up the topic of immigration many times. Our job will be harder because of our new tightened immigration laws. Let's see if we can shake hands on it. The pilot made an announcement that the descent had started. David and Simon went back to their seats. I took another look outside the window. I could see Stallport, the capital of Agnolia. The large dockyards of the city and the canals appeared closer as our descent continued. Stallport was certainly a fitting name due to stall, meaning canal. A couple of minutes later, we finally touched down. The plane parked. I took a final look out the window. The welcoming ceremony from Agnolia was waiting along the red carpet outside. After the guards made their way out, I exited the plane and waved to the crowd. Prime Minister Van Horten was nowhere in sight. Instead, I was greeted by the foreign minister. After handshakes and a couple of photos, I moved to the car where Serge was waiting to make our way to the office of the Prime Minister. Good day, sir. I hope the flight was comfortable. Yes, it was, Serge. Thanks. I got in the car and we made our way through the foreign streets. Our convoy was protected by Sordish and Agnolian guards in their vehicles. We began driving by the highway beside the port and saw dozens of dockyards and ships anchored. Some of the ships and machinery looked old. The city itself... Try that one again without the voice crack. The city itself looked very gray and grim. The buildings had a touch of Rumberg's famous monarchian architecture with a mix of Sordish signature domes on the older ones. We were now on the main road to the office of the Prime Minister. Looks like they are not too happy to see you, sir. Serge pointed at the crowd that gathered on both sides of the street. It was a protest. They were shouting and yelling at our convoy. Some of them held signs written in Sordish. Sordland must pay its debts to Agnolia. Uh-oh. You know, I never knew Agnolians were so ungrateful. Not everybody sees a great leader like you every day. Jeez. So ungrateful. They can yell all they want. There have been so many issues in Sordland. I don't know if I can call myself a great leader. I wonder what propaganda their state is feeding them. They can yell all they want. Why not? I know what it is. They are always scared of Sordland's potential. And now they are afraid that a lion leads Sordland. Man, this guy's in love with me. They're afraid of you. Not just that, but you're a man selfless enough that you would pay for your driver's children. A true leader, I dare say. How's your son doing, bro? He is fine, sir. A strong boy, taken after his namesake for sure. Anton, that's me. Named his kid after me. Told you he was in love with me. The convoy started slowing down. We have arrived. The car continued through the gates while the security vehicle went the other way. We finally came to a stop in front of the front door. Serge left the car and opened the car door. I exited and began walking to the doors where dozens of press and the Prime Minister were waiting for me. I saw the Prime Minister much more clearly as I neared the door. He was shorter than I thought. Mr. President, welcome to Agnolia and to the beautiful city of Stallport. Thank you very much for the warm welcome. It's great to see you. Be here. I thought about going with the third option, but I didn't really want to get too personal with the guy and use his first name, so... the press surrounding us had been waiting for this handshake moment. Overpower his handshake, shake hands, or shake hands and hug. I'll give him a bro moment here. We shook hands and I went for a hug, which was received well by the Prime Minister. The press went wild and took more pictures. My driver, Serge, stomped his foot jealously. He gestured to the entrance of the 200-year-old Parliament building. This way, please. We entered and the press followed us inside. I would like to present you with a gift as a sign of friendship in between our countries. An assistant showed up immediately with a large glass box in her hand. It contained a single parchment inside. This here is one of the first treaties written in between Sordland and Agnolia. May it mark the renewal of our friendship today as well. This is an amazing gift. Thank you. Our photos were taken again. I gestured at one of my retainers who was holding our gift to the Prime Minister. I wonder what it is. Gift one of the original copies of the first Constitution of Sordland. Gift a Sordish-bred puppy, despite Martin's known fear of dogs. Okay. Gift an ornamented ceremonial sword made with Sordish steel. Wonder what kind of message that would send. I don't know if he would care about our first Constitution, especially considering we're trying to reform it. Giving him a dog when the guy's afraid of a dog is probably a dickish thing to do. I'm a little worried about the symbolism of this, but I think it's the best option. An excellent specimen. This must be hundreds of years old. It looks like this is Sordish steel as well. Very fitting, thank you. So stop trying to overcharge us for steel. Let's go to my office. Follow me. I followed him and we entered the office of the Prime Minister. It was a room of wooden minimalist decoration. It was far more modest than I expected. We sat down. He leaned back and made himself comfortable. Sheesh. Thankfully done with the ceremonies. Are you not fond of these ceremonies? I was about to say the same thing. I'm not fond of these either. Or just nod. Common ground, why not? It's one of the tougher parts of our job. He got up from his chair and moved over to the bar. There were many varieties of liquor. Here we go. Would you like a drink, Mr. Rayne? I wouldn't mind some Agnolian vodka. I will have an Early Maroon 30-year-old. I'll go with some vodka. Ah, you know your drinks. He poured the drinks and gave mine to me before sitting down again. Let's see. Let's go straight to business. A true gentleman. I can respect that about you, Mr. Van Horten. And what was that protest outside? Can't you control them? We'll be diplomatic here. This is how we do things in Agnolia, Mr. Rayne. I appreciate the kind words, but flattery alone won't sway me this day. First of all, I would like to say that I've been watching your recent changes to the immigration policy. We have worries about the new and tighter immigration laws. Immigrants are very important for beneficial economic development, and we believe that very much in Agnolia. I would definitely prefer Sordland to be welcoming to Agnolian citizens and vice versa. The decision has already been made. Before I start caring about Agnolian citizens, I must care about my own people. Why don't you deal with the problems in your own country first? None of these would be my first option. So we get to pick the lesser of three evils. I have to care about my own people. Or just hold firm with the decisions already been made. Unfortunate. He took a sip of his vodka. So tell me, Mr. Rayne, is Sordland a reliable trading partner to Agnolia? Not if you keep acting like you have the upper hand, as long as Agnolia is a reliable trading partner. Alright, so we'll be good to you if you be good to us. I can assure you we are. He paused for a moment. It was a good move to start building that highway. Overall, this will positively affect our trade. Well done, Mr. Rayne. I didn't do it for Agnolia. Man, he's just... I guess one of the options to be would be very antagonistic, and I'd rather not do that. So what is it going to be? Let's change the course of our nations. Are you going to talk all day about past deeds? God, let's change the course of our nations. I'm afraid with all your actions so far, I'm not convinced that Sordland is the right partner for Agnolia. I gave you this cool sword, though. What the fuck? Sordland is simply too volatile. Elected politicians are getting killed in your country left and right. Only one did, and he was a dick, so... Not to mention the subsequent protests in between, which I've dealt with. Come on, man. Give me my sword back. We were willing at first, however. The situation has changed. We do not have confidence in your state anymore. I'm sorry you've come all this way for this. I'm not going to beg him. I'm not going to threaten him, so... Did you bring me all this way to ridicule me? Of course not. Well then. He stood up from his chair. We must continue the official program. As you know, we will pay a visit to our founder's grave for another ceremony. Afterwards, we will move on to a state dinner. I won't be joining. It's time we were on our way back home. That is an option, since he just pretty much told us to go pound sand. I'm not going. His eyes widen in surprise. Well, I mean, you told me to stick it. I'm not going to stick around and go to your ancestors' graves. I don't really care. But this is customary. Every Sordish president before you has done this. This won't sit well with us. I must insist we follow protocol. Well, when you put it like that, sure, everyone else does it, so I might as well too. No, I won't say it twice. This is outrageous. You are not giving confidence to the people of Agnolia right now. Well, you don't have confidence in me anyway, so what difference does it make? But it is your decision after all. Very well then, I will let them know you are heading out. See you later, Mr. President. We will be in touch. I got up from my chair. You're welcome to come visit Sordland, see things are getting a little better. Serge was waiting for me. I got in the car and we started driving back to the airport. I briefed Simon and David. The way back was mostly silent. I tend to piss off my advisors. I couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief when we touched down on Holsword. Okay. We've got news to read. The radical journalist arrested. Uh-oh. The Sordish authorities detained the journalist John Dandern of one of the country's opposition newspapers, The Radical, on Monday for suspected links to the militant organization Red Youth. Earlier today, the police claimed that they discovered Dandern to have close ties with the banned Red Youth organization. The police released the reason for the arrest in a statement, claiming that he was suspected of planning violent attacks against the state. Wow. Darkness descends. This is from The Radical, who just had their boss arrested. Our respected correspondent and columnist, journalist John Dandern, was arrested among several others yesterday after trying to report on the police arrest of members of the socialist unions. He was immediately arrested on scene without being given a reason. Without providing evidence, the prosecutors say the detainees were suspected of committing crimes on behalf of Red Youth militants, who Holsword has accused of organizing terrorist attacks and coup attempts against the Sordish government. This guy's been critical of the government. They're not happy that we arrested him. We will not be silenced. The morning will come. Hegel. Van Horten is playing with fire. Yesterday morning, Chancellor of Volksland, Hegel, delivered a press conference in Haarlem about the escalating tensions in Helgeland. During the press release, he said, Agnolia's unlawful occupation of the island will not stop us from doing whatever it takes to protect our people living in Helgeland. He heavily criticized and condemned Prime Minister Van Horten, saying, we are dealing with an illegal occupation force which doesn't refrain from entering our territorial waters without asking our permission. Van Horten is playing with fire, and if he's not careful, he might get burned. Well, so these guys and these guys are at odds over this island here, Helgeport. Anything else to do before we go on to the other trade meeting? Hopefully this one goes a little better. I think these are the socialists. So, Wehland. Well, all right. What's this journal? Turn 4. Turn 5. We failed at negotiating a trade deal with Agnolia. Yep. Big time. Let's talk to the Wehlands. Wehlandese. Sordland's one's flight from Holsword to that place took approximately 5 hours. Despite heavy turbulence, I managed to sleep a little. Along with Simon and David, we landed at the international airport of the capital city of Wehland. Our aim here was to finalize the trade deal drafted in between Sordland and Wehland. Shortly after our plane landed, the door opened and the sun blinded me for a moment. I stepped outside. I saw the soldiers lined up on either side of a red carpet. There must have been at least 100 soldiers. The marching band started playing and the soldiers immediately saluted me. Salute the soldiers. There we go. At the bottom of the stairs, Victor Smolak was waiting for me next to a military jeep with a few soldiers by his side. Who is this guy? Politician. At least he met me firsthand. The other guy was just, he sent his lackey. So there were a few reporters on the side waiting with their cameras. He was a tall man, almost as tall as me. He was wearing large sunglasses, and his attire was a regular suit, contrasting with the military attire of everyone else in the field. Mr. President, welcome to Rock Claws. He immediately motioned for an embrace. We hugged, and many cameras went off at the same time. He turned around for a couple of additional poses. Pull him aside for a couple more poses yourself. We're not going to do that. Thank you for inviting us. Nice to see you, Mr. President. Now that the pleasantries are done, let's go. Seems like he's ready to talk business. With another tune from the marching band, we boarded the military jeep. He sat in the driver's seat and I sat next to him. As we started speeding up, the soldiers saluted again. He saluted back. And so did we. My security detail and Victor's security detail started following us immediately along with a team of reporters. We will first go to the city center to see the opening of a statue. Whose statue? It's mine, of course. Oh, no ego there. We kept making small talk about the flight and the weather until we started making our way into the city center. Okay. On almost every corner, there were reporters taking photos of us. Oddly enough, every single street that we took seemed completely empty. Why is this place so empty? I had the locals close down their businesses because of your visit so that we can enjoy the city more. There we are. We arrived at the city center. In the middle of a large plaza, there was a covered statue. Lots of people had gathered behind fences, and they were waving both Sordland and Wehland flags. Victor waved back at them. I'm not liking this situation very much. My people have been very supportive of this visit, Mr. President. I'm sure you are delighted to see. Man came closer to the fence and started yelling at Victor. With my limited knowledge of Wezek language, I understood the words Victor and murderer. Oh boy. Almost instantaneously, two soldiers showed up from behind the man and he was taken away. Thankfully, the sun is up. Today will be a good day for the reveal. What will happen to the guy that you just had dragged away? Oh, which man? The one in the crowd? Don't worry about the details. He must have been a troubled fellow. I wonder what happens if I bomb the trade talks with both these guys. Because I really don't like this guy. Maybe in my next playthrough we'll be buddies. We took our places in front of the statue, and the drums rolled, and the statue was uncovered. The statue was done pretty well, except that he was made more masculine. He was wearing a cloak and holding a sword in his hand. What do you think? Yes, it's very, It's good, dude. It's alright. Yeah. I don't want to walk. I want to talk about my trade deal. I followed him through the streets. At every corner, more and more photos were taken. We stopped in front of a pastry vendor. Give me 2 strudels. The man behind the counter smiled and gave us 2 strudels. And I'm going to pay him for it. Something tells me if we wait for him to pay him for it, he's just going to stiff the guy, so I'll pay for it. Hold up. Your money doesn't count here. I got this. He handed the money to the street vendor. The cameras flashed again. Well, hey, guess I was wrong. Passing the gates of the palace, we made our way into the main building. made from ivory-colored stones. The old guard towers flanked the magnificent main building from both sides. The inside of the palace was very spacious, with a very large chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Grand staircases, made from the same ivory stone, had red carpets on them. On both sides to the upper levels, guards stood with the traditional outfits of the old Wessex kingdoms. We finally reached the office of the president of Wehland. The door closed behind us. The interior boasted gold ornaments on the walls, ivory colors, and various jewels attached to different artifacts of old. As it was customary in Wehland, we sat down on the carpet. Now we can talk our trade deal. Nod. I should have just been like, finally. But before that, I really should have just said that. Really should have just been finally. He clapped his hands twice. There we go. Bring the quiche. A few assistants immediately entered the room carrying a large ornamented quiche, the well-known smoking instrument originating from Wehland. They immediately lit it up, and the room was filled with the smell of tobacco. He inhaled the smoke and handed me the quiche. So it's kind of like a hookah, I guess. I'll partake. It was probably the highest quality tobacco I have ever smoked. I handed it back. He took another puff, filling the room with more smoke. So, Mr. President, that's too long. Can I call you Anton? Well, I don't really like you, so... Why not? Sure. Guess we're trying to make a good impression. Anton, tell me, what do you really think about Rumburg? What do you care? A barking dog doesn't bite. They are a threat that needs to be dealt with. They can go to hell. Not much in particular. Like any other country, they have their needs and their own agenda. They are a threat, and they do need to be dealt with, so... I agree with your sentiments, Anton. They are a threat to everyone in the region. I assure you, their time will come. Are you planning something? Regardless, I would rather prevent further conflict in the region. You know as well as I do, Anton, they are coming whether we like it or not. They are the aggressors, not us. For now, I have something else in mind. I'm listening. He clapped his hands again. Two assistants came in the room with a map of the border regions in between Wehland and Sordland. He pointed at the border. Look. Bloods and their so-called BFF are causing problems for me in this region. I know that they are also a problem for you as well. I will not allow these traitors to exist in my border, so I will hit them with all the might of Wehland. These terrorists need to be destroyed. I call it Operation Bear Trap. I don't support any military action this close to our border. What do you want from me? Or I like the sound of it. I don't support your military operations so close to my border. He lay back on the large pillow behind him. Here's the deal. I will give you the best trade deal in the region. You will give me your assistance crushing the terrorists on both our borders. I need specifics. What do you mean? My spies have infiltrated BFF cells and they found caches of KA-74s. We trace them back to Rumburg. This alone justifies my retaliation to protect my country. Worst of all, we found that similar shipments are going to Sordland. Yes, Anton, you see, they're not just Wehland's problems. Let's take a step back and talk about what you will get in return. I propose you a no-tariff agreement, co-investment projects, and oil. In return, you will assist me in destroying the terrorists in my country. What kind of support do you need from me? We can, but these vermin are good at hiding. What I want from you in return for all the money and their resources is a joint operation in between our armies and the BFF. I took a moment to think about it. Let's negotiate Sordland's contribution in this operation, or no deal, or deal. Let's talk about Sordland's contribution a little bit. You are a tough one, Anton. Normally I wouldn't offer anything else, but I like you. Well, that's good. Here's my final offer. When the operation starts, with you or without you, there will be stragglers trying to cross into Sordland. We just want you to support the operation even if you do not join. That doesn't sound bad. Stop the terrorists from fleeing into your country and you will have your deal. Simple. So what do you think? That's not a bad deal. We don't have to get involved militarily. Kind of falls in line with our tightened immigration policy, not letting refugees through. I guess kind of a... Alright, deal. I knew I could trust you, Anton. Tonight we will drink. He clapped his hands again. Drinks, dancers, music. A group of dancers and performers entered the smoke-filled room. As they performed their songs, we clinked our glasses to our newly found partnership while sipping the sweet liquor. The next day, I returned to Sordland with a hangover. Okay. So we have a trade deal and some type of arrangement to reinforce our own borders against the Bludish refugees that are going to come flooding in. We do have a fairly sizable Bludish population in our own country, so that could cause some problems going forward. But oil and no tariff trade and whatever the other thing was, I think we made out okay. So let's see what the newspaper has to say about that. Sordland ratified a new trade agreement with Wehland. Sordland ratified a new trade agreement and an investment protection agreement with Wehland. This is a significant development that shows a significant normalization of Sordish Wayzak relations after decades of troubles. At the most basic level, the agreement will support jobs and growth between the two nations and ensure that Sordland will be buying Wehzak oil from a cheaper price. The agreement will gradually reduce most tariffs and regulatory barriers, creating new opportunities for Sordish entrepreneurs to do business and invest in Wehland. The negotiations also included a cooperation pact against the terrorist organization Bludish Freedom Front, which I'm surprised the radical has nothing to say about this. Alright, what else is there to do? Apparently nothing for the time being. We've got one major event here, which is the speech of the President on the reforms at the Grand National Assembly. But I think I'm going to save that one for the next episode. We'll keep this kind of a foreign policy episode. We made a decision to modernize our military as opposed to just beefing it up with numbers. I think it was the right decision to make. Didn't get the trade deal with the country of our choice, but we did get a trade deal. I don't really think that offering to secure our borders or to stop the BFF from crossing into Sordland is necessarily a bad one. We'll see what the Bludish population thinks of our decision going forward. I know there's a way to look at the... Here we go. Maybe not. Okay. So anyway, that's going to call this episode to a close. If you like the episode, hit the like button. It'll help the channel and the series out a little bit. Very, very, very curious what you guys think about this. This isn't the normal type of strategy or war game that I play, but I'm enjoying watching the story of Anton and Sordland play out based on the decisions I make. Granted, some of my decisions probably weren't the best, but I think we're doing okay. We just got to get this economy up. And I'm assuming our budget deficit will shrink as well once the trade deal goes into effect, as long as we don't get pulled into some type of war. Anyway, like I said, it's going to do it for the episode. Leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think about the game in the comments below. Whether you like it or not, I'm very interested to hear your thoughts, so head on down there and let me know. If you'd like to follow with Anton Rayne, president of Sordland, as he heads off into the future, hit the subscribe button and you can come along with us. J76NY saying, thank you very much for watching and have yourself a very good day.